Hello and welcome. I'm Lizzie Stein, Scholarly Programs and Publications Specialist at the Smithsonian's National Museum of Asian Art. And welcome to our first sneak peek of the fall 2024 season, exhibiting a book like no other, The Great Mongol Shahnama. Before I welcome you to today's program and introduce today's speaker, I did want to mention that we are also welcoming you to an exciting new chapter for the museum, which is the launch of our new Freer Research Center. The Freer Research Center will serve as a forum for stimulating collaborative projects, innovative scholarship, and lively dialogue that will shape and invigorate the future of research on Asian and American art. We have fellowships, programs, publications, and digital initiatives, which are all detailed on the new Freer Research Center page, which will be in the chat. We hope you can check it out, learn more about our scholarly offerings, read our blog to learn about the museum's history of scholarship, and also reach out to us at our new email address, which will also be in the chat, freerresearchcenter@si.edu. Now, I'm delighted to welcome you to today's program, where we will welcome Curator Simon Rettig. He will give an overview of the museum's upcoming exhibition, An Epic of Kings, which includes 25 folios of a now dismantled manuscript, The Great Mongol Shahnama. Simon will also introduce the intricate text-image relationship of this copy of Iran's national epic, probably created for the Mongol Ilkhanid ruler Abdu Said around 1330. Dr. Simon Rettig is Associate Curator of the Arts of the Islamic World at the National Museum of Asian Art. Since he joined the museum in 2012, Simon has curated several exhibitions, including Nastaliq, the Genius of Persian Calligraphy, The Prince and the Shah, Royal Portraits from Qajar, Iran, and the upcoming Epic of Kings, The Great Mongol Shahnama, which will be opening this Saturday, September 21st, and be open through January 12th of next year. His current projects also include a major exhibition on the history of Persian painting and a monograph on the Freer Gallery of Art's collection of celebrated manuscript of Nizami Kursaz Ushirin from the Alayyid period. Simon, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lizzie, and I am delighted to be the inaugural lecture in sneak peek of the Freer Research Center. I think that is a very exciting moment in the life of our museums and institution. And I am also, I think I'm going to share my screen now. So yes, thank you. I am also very excited because this exhibition, An Epic of Kings, The Great Mongol Shahnama, is opening, as you said, in 4 days. It has been, as any exhibition, it has been a long process, maybe longer than expected or what it is usually for an exhibition. The idea of this exhibition on the Great Mongol Shahnama started in 2016, 2017, when the National Museum of Asian Art agreed to be the co-publisher of Professor Robert Hillenbrand's magnum opus on the Great Mongol Shahnama. And it is also because the National Museum of Asian Art has the largest number of folios of the Great Mongol Shahnama in the world. So, and there've never been any exhibition on this manuscript before. So that we decided to do an exhibition, and then the pandemic happened. The idea of the exhibitions, died, and it was revived a couple of years ago. But of course, when you don't think about something for some time, when it's back again, it takes a different form. So the exhibition that is, opening in 4 days is basically not at how it was thought at its inception, let's say. So what is the Great Mongol Shahnama? So what we called the Great Mongol Shahnama is a particular copy of Iran's national epic, Firdawsi's Shahnameh, or Book of Kings, which was completed around the year 1010. The copy, we're talking about was made 300 years later, in the 1330s, probably, for the Mongol Ilkhanid ruler Abu Sa'id. And it is what we consider, or this is what is considered the first imperial copy of the Shahnameh ever made. And as you can see on screen, um, it is um, like nothing that was like has been made before or what would come after. Here it's in you have one folio, the first folio known from the Great Mongol Shahnameh, with the evil king Zahak enthroned, and it is juxtaposed as it will be in the exhibition to a contemporaneous copy made in Iran as well, and you can see the difference. I mean, the difference is like between the two pages are startling. You know, in terms of size, the Great Mongol Shahnameh is monumental in scale, and in terms also of how the painting was made. It is very detailed. Each figures are sort of like almost individualized. The composition are sophisticated. That's really what defined this particular copy, and that is the theme of then the exhibition. Um, but I decided to approach it through a particular angle. The manuscript has to this day 57 known paintings. And they are dispersed around like 20 collections in the world. So you have to come up with a theme. Of course, like as a curator, you know, I can be greedy. And if I do an exhibition on the Great Mongol Shahnameh, I wanted all the folios. That's not possible. So I had to come up with a theme, a narrative, you know, to guide the visitor through this copy. One particularity about the Great Mongol Shahnameh is that only certain, I mean, the emphasis, the visual emphasis in the manuscripts is sort of laid, or it focuses on the historical part of the epic. Firdawsi's Shahnameh is divided into sort of two parts: a mythical part and then a historical part. You know, so the Shahnameh tells the story of Iran since the creation of the world, because God created Iran first. And then it ends with like at the eve of the Arab invasion of the country, of the land, in the 7th century CE. So if the first part is about like mythical kings and heroes, you know, like Jamshid and Rostam, the second part is very much focused on historical figures, starting with Alexander the Great. And it happens that the Great Mongol Shahnameh, for some reason I will I will explain later, uh, is focusing on those historical figures. First, Alexander the Great. It's the largest, it's the most extensive iconographic cycle in the manuscript and any other manuscript of the Shahnameh. And so Iskandar is known in the Shahnameh and in Iran. Is a major figure, and like the Mongols, he conquers the world, is a formidable judge, and is seeking knowledge and wisdom, eventually immortality, which he will not find because he's just mortal as any other man. And following Alexander, the other sort of part of the Shahnameh, which is emphasized with illustrations, is the last part with the Sasanian dynasty, the Sasanians being the last ancient Iranian dynasty before the conquest of Iran by the Arab armies and the advent of Islam. So there is a really a strong emphasis on the pre-Islamic the pre-Islamic past by the Mongols and a historical past by the Mongols in the Great Mongol Shahnameh. Also, you can see that those pages are in various collections. So I'm very grateful to the Cleveland Museum of Art, the Harvard Art Museums, and the Care Collections of Islamic Art, which is on long-term loan to the Dallas Museum of Art. Those institutions lend us their folios with the Sasanian kings or Alexanders, and it's they haven't been together probably since the manuscript was dismembered over a century ago. So if that is the main narrative or the thread of the main thread of the in the exhibition, there is another one that I'm developing here. It's clearly, I mean, really the paintings in the Great Mongol Shahnameh represent a watershed in the history of Persian paintings. And if they're not coming from a vacuum, like there are illustrated manuscript before, starting like in the early 14th century. The visual sources to create those paintings is very it's unprecedented, So like I show here, different works and different mediums, like textiles or ceramics may have served as models to create some of the paintings, but those paintings were also like the painters may have been also illuminators or working on other works of arts, like Quran's illuminations in Quranic manuscripts or in other manuscripts. What is exceptional with the Great Mongol Shahnameh is that the visual sources are not only coming from Iran, but it happens in a time when basically the whole world meets in Iran. And what you experience with paintings in the Great Mongol Shahnameh is that you can feel that those visual sources coming from East and especially China. And what I tried to do here is like I don't pretend that the painter of Ardashir capture Ardavan saw that painting made in China, that precise paintings. But those paintings must have been in circulation widely, must have reached Iran at some point, and like the idea that you see in creating that composition with like a simple background, a clear sky behind, and the pine trees, must must have been seen by the painter, which basically was inspired by it. Now, the pine tree, which has a special meaning in Chinese painting, here in the Persian painting completely lost it. You know, it serves as a background, but if you want, it's the visual that matters. It's not the idea behind. And if you know, inspiration can come from the East, which makes sense because, you know, the Mongols were ruling basically from the Chinese seas to the Mediterranean. Um, other inspiration was coming from the West. There is the West, the let's say the near the close place, which is like the Mediterranean, and notably the you know the Byzantine Empire, the Crusaders as well, and also the Armenian Kingdom of Cilicia, like you see here, and that has never been done before. So that where you have um, such such very compelling, I think, juxtapositions of works from these regions with the Great Mongol Shahnama. So, like for instance, here a painting in an Armenian gospel with one of the probably the most famous painting from the Great Mongol Shahnama, which is the Bier of Alexander. But you can go, and I'm going even further west with examples from France and Italy, with those wonderful manuscripts, um, which were generously lent by the Getty in Los Angeles, and that allows a very interesting comparison where it proves that such works, manuscripts, you know, portable altars and chapels on textiles, were in circulation and reached Iran. And if the Persian painters saw them, they may not have understood their meaning and, you know, signification, especially the Christian meaning, but they clearly adopted the form and the compositions. And um, it's you know, what I'm trying to do in this exhibition is to put together like here basically works from the East and the West, and they meet in the middle in some forms, either in the composition or like here also in the adoptions of colors between Christ and, for instance, like the Persian king depicted here. Um, of course, in the exhibition, I present also the history of the manuscript of the Great Mongol Shahnama, a manuscript that is no longer, that was dismembered in the early 20th century. I mean, around 1910, 1913, by a Belgian art dealer in Paris named Georges de Motte. And so I'm trying to present to the visitors what happened to the manuscript, at least in the 19th century, because it's unclear, you know, where the manuscript was and what happened to it between the time of its creation in the 14th century and the 19th century. In the 19th century, the manuscript resurfaces in Tehran, as proved this photograph taken by Antoine Sevrogin in Tehran, and which shows the manuscript when it was still intact, complete. And it's I'm very excited because like the photograph and the glass negative will be shown in the exhibition with the original page that is now at Harvard and Harvard art museums, and I'm very grateful to the Harvard Art Museums to lend this page because it allows us also to see what late restorations and probably done or required by the art dealer was made to the paintings. So you see the gazelle here that you can see on the painting now was very much damaged actually on the in the late 19th century. What is presented also in the exhibition is a video about a project that the museum has undertaken in 2018, and which is led by Matthew Clark, who is the conservation scientist in the Department of Conservation and Research here at the NMA. Matthew has analyzed through different techniques the 14 folios at the museum, and we are publishing e-publication next year, end of 2025, inshallah, about the results of this analysis, which is only at its it's only at its inception for Persian paintings. Like more and more works of Persian paintings are analyzed around the world, but in comparison to Western works, it's not well developed yet. So this will bring clearly new knowledge about 14th century Persian painting. And I will just conclude, because the theme of Sneak Peek this year, it's text-image relationship, with this idea of how it works in the Great Mongol Shahnama, which is something I don't deal with in the exhibition. You can't talk about everything, but that is part of an ongoing research on the manuscripts, and that will, that I will talk about like in future lectures or article. And I just briefly wanted to talk about the text-image relationship in one of the most famous paintings of the in the Great Mongol Shahnama, which is Iskandar, Alexander, and the talking tree that you see here on the screen. So how it works? Why did I put it next, juxtaposed to another painting, which is Iskandar, building the wall against the peoples of Gog and Magog? It's because originally this was a single folio. On the recto, you would have the painting on the right, and Alexander and the talking tree would be on the verso, on the backside of the folio. Now, when the manuscript was dismembered, the folios were split, so that the dealer would make more profit by selling two instead of one. And so now you see them separate. In the exhibition, I put them back together, backside, so like you will experience them as they were originally in the manuscript. So when you look at the page of Alexander and the talking tree, when you start reading at the top of the page, that is basically the end. The first two lines are the end of the story of Alexander building the wall of Gog and Magog. And then it's only on line 9, so around here, that starts the story with the talking tree, and it says that Alexander and his troops reach a thriving city with beautiful gardens and buildings, and the inhabitants make him their king. And while asking what there is to see around, Alexander is given a description of the marvelous and oracular tree, with a male trunk, which speaks during the day, and the female one at night. And the text, like that you see here on the sort of like on the last steps, so right before the paintings, so the last three lines, it reads like, "A dark desert lies ahead of you, but no man is so weary of his own soul as to go there. None of us have ever seen or heard that there are any animals there or that birds fly there." And then it adds, "Iskandar and his troops went forward, and when they came near the speaking tree, the ground throbbed with heat, and the soil there was covered with the pelts of wild beasts." So the painting that you see here emphasizes the landscape around the tree, and especially the wondrous nature of the place behind the tree, which marks the limits of the terrestrial world. The rocks in the background on the left, with their surreal and threatening shape, support that idea, and especially the fungoid, sponge-like, and bizarre forms scattered around the tree. Their colors also reflect the heat of the ground, as it's mentioned by Firdawsi, and the painter has used like warm tones such as orange and pinkish reds, all accentuated by touches of white. So what you think is like basically you see a description sort of the text in the image. But it's interesting like to go to the next page that we no longer have, but if we go to, you know, a Ferdowsi's text, what follows, it's basically he, Alexander, asked the guide what the pelts were and who it was that has skinned so many animals in this way. And the man answered, "The tree has many worshippers, and when they come here to worship, they feed on the flesh of wild animals." So there is no depiction of pelts, and like and it's clear sort of like the painter, you know, didn't follow the exact descriptions. But in fact, if you look here, and I put a detail, you see that one of the rider holds a bone. So, and that has never been noticed before. So, which means sort of like a way for the painter to say, you know, here there was like dead animals, basically. Now, if you go back to the text, but upper in the columns, it says like victorious king. It's a description given by the guide of the tree. Victorious king, there is a marvel here. A tree that has two separate trunks together, one which is female and the other male. And the splendid tree limbs can speak. At night, the female trunk becomes sweet smelling and speaks. When the daylight comes, the male speaks. So what you see here on the on the paintings, you can't make the difference. You can't differentiate the male trunk from the female trunk. But with the physical analysis, you realize that the trunks, we realized that the trunks were different. One is pure gold, and one is gold mixed with silver, which provide a colder tone, further, you know, emphasized by the fact that it's outlined in black. And what is very interesting here is that the sky is blue. The sky is blue. A blue sky in Persian paintings mean it's night. You know, it would be gold if it was daylight. Meaning here, what Alexander is hearing is the female trunk, the one with the silver, and that's the one, the female trunk is announcing Alexander is imminent death. So, so basically, the painter has a subtle way to make clear what part of the text he wants to highlight in the painting, and that is a very sophisticated way to uh, to um, to create a sort of a unique text-image relationship that is unseen so far in illustrated copies of the Shahnameh. So that you won't see in the exhibition, but that will come later in probably publications or talks. But I still invite you to come in person and see the show in 4 days, and it is open until January 12th. So you have like a bit less than 4 months to come and experience also like all these folios put together, because that doesn't happen for like over 100 years, and I'm not sure when will be the next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon, so much for sharing this insider's view of the exhibition with us. I'm sure I speak for many when I say that learning more about the amount of work that went into this and the background of the folios makes me even more excited to see the show, which again, to everybody, it opens on Saturday, and I hope you can make it. I also love the way that you related back to the theme of all of the sneak peek talks for the semester and brought in the talking tree. So thank you for that. We do have some questions in the chat, in the Q&A box, excuse me, and I encourage everybody to put in any questions that you have. Just to start with one that I had was that you discussed how many folios there are in the world, and the ones that we borrowed, the ones that we have. How did you even approach that selection?
As as I said, yes, so there are like 50 folios with painting, illustrated folios in existence, in 22 collections around the world. As a curator, I'm greedy. I wanted all of them. It's not possible. We can't do that. So as I'm going with the theme of like the depictions of the historical figures in the Great Mongol Shahnameh, which is Alexander and the Sasanians, I decided to go to collections which had folios or pages with Alexander and Sasanian kings, and which are basically Cleveland, Harvard, and the Care collection for the most part. And I could have gone with more, but then I thought, it's for the first time ever that works from the Latin West are juxtaposed with Persian paintings. And, I'm immensely grateful to the Getty for lending their masterpieces. And it was, and I'm especially grateful to Beth Morrison, who is the curator of the manuscript there. But, it's not easy to say like, okay, I'm going to juxtapose like Persian paintings to medieval European paintings. There is still this idea it's not equal when you realize that actually they stand, at the same level. And so I have to be very selective in the folios I wanted, also because I'm bringing other objects in the exhibition.
That makes sense. There's many questions, and I know I'll try to get to as many as possible. A couple of them are asking about the manufacture of such large pieces. One is about, do you know about the manufacture of such large sheets of paper for this work?
Yeah, and you have to think, I mean, the folios that, as you see them today, the margins, for instance, the margins are 19th century addition. So we don't know the exact size of the original manuscripts, but it's true that the sheets were very large, and also you have to think that sheets of paper were like bifolios. so they go 2 pages by 2, so which even larger, which is probably the largest size of the mold, that a paper maker could could make at the time. I think so. At the time, it was given the name of Baghdad, so what we could call Baghdadi paper, and which was, I think, 80 by 80 centimeters high by 1 meter of the width. So creates like very large sheet of papers. But like the Islamic world, and especially the Iranian world, were highly skilled in paper making. So they would make some of the most finest papers in the world at the time.
Wow. And staying on that theme of materials, somebody was wondering about the blue pigment, if it's lapis lazuli or something else, and also about the yellow pigment.
Yeah, so and you will see that in when we publish the result of the physical analysis. So, and Matthew Clark would speak better about that than me, but it is lapis lazuli, which is like the most expensive blue that you can get, because it's coming only from the mines of Badakhshan in Afghanistan. So it tells you also the wealth that was put in the creation of the manuscript. But it's not only lapis lazuli. Then you would have azurite, which is a lower mineral blue. You have also indigo. You have many blues actually in the Great Mongol Shahnama. So it depends. But I think the sky here in Alexander and the Talking Tree, I think it's either lapis lazuli or azurite. Yeah.
Wonderful. Is it possible to ascertain how many different artists contributed to this manuscript?
In terms of painters, so
Mhm.
we don't know. So the manuscript was, it has been, I mean, scholars surmised that there was like about 200 paintings, 180 paintings. The manuscript was probably unfinished in terms of paintings, because like there are like blank spaces on some pages, but clearly when you look at the paintings, you can see different hands, and so several, I think like at least 6, 7 painters have been different painters have been identified just by the hands. We don't have any names because the manuscript has been destroyed, but paintings were not signed anyway. And even the name of the calligrapher, we don't know, because like the colophon, which is the part at the end of a manuscript which may provide information, uh, has probably been destroyed.
I know we're running short on time, but there is a question I think many people are wondering, which is, will there be an exhibition catalog?
No, because as I said at the beginning, the idea was to make an exhibition which would have coincided with the publication of Hillenbrand's book called The Great Mongol Shahnama, we that the museum co-published, which is it weighs 10 pounds. So it's maybe not the definitive study on the Great Mongol Shahnama, but I think it's like, we have enough. There is many there is enough materials here about the manuscripts, and it's basically the result of decades of research on the manuscripts. So no, there is no catalog. But as I mentioned, also there will be that publication on the physical analysis, the scientific analysis of the manuscripts, and I intend to write 1 or 2 academic essays on the theme I developed in the exhibition. So stay tuned.
Wonderful. Stay tuned, everyone. And also, we just put a link to the publication that Simon just held up by Robert Hildenbrandt in our chat. And also, you can see more about that publication, other forthcoming publications like the one Simon's been speaking about on our research page. There's so much more I want to ask you, but we are out of time. Did you want to maybe mention another program coming up where that you'll be doing for the exhibition? I know we don't have it up on our website just yet, but I think it would address some of the questions people are asking about cultural exchange.
Yes, and there will be, I think so it's on October 29th.
That's correct.
There will be a virtual talk and conversation between me and Professor Marcus Cruz from Arizona State University, who is one of the world leading specialists on the romances of Alexander. So these manuscripts made in the West, especially in France, medieval France. So we will have a conversations of like a comparison between romances of illustrated romances of Alexander and the Great Mongol Shahnama. And so the role also of and the place of Alexander in both cultures at the time. So that is very exciting. So mark your calendar, October 29.
Thank you again so much, Simon, for joining us today. We hope to see you all again next month. On October 8th, we will have our conservation scientist, Jennifer Chakai, join us to discuss a Chinese painting pastiche in the collections. Thank you again very much for joining us, and we hope to see you in the exhibition.
Thank you, and congratulations on the launch of the Free Research Center.